He is saying the message of peace on earth is needed as much as ever. In a message due to be broadcast at 3 o'clock on Christmas Day afternoon, she'll talk about the importance of treating others with consideration in what some may see as a veiled reference to the chaos over Brexit. Our royal correspondent Rhiannon Mills has more.
This deal, no deal, or the risk of no Brexit.
The fallout over Brexit has dominated the run-up to Christmas, dividing the country in this season of goodwill. The Queen has publicly stayed clear of all the confusion, but in her Christmas message there appears to be a coded call for unity. She will say, even with the most deeply held differences, treating the other person with respect and as a fellow human being is always a good first step towards greater understanding. Speaking about the birth of Jesus and the Christmas story, she will add, I believe that his message of peace on earth and goodwill to all is never out of date. It can be heeded by everyone. It's needed as much as ever. The Queen's broadcast has become an important Christmas tradition, and it is a rare moment when Her Majesty can share her thoughts with the Commonwealth and the United Kingdom. We're never told by the palace exactly what she means in her message, but from the quotes they've released, the themes of unity and compassion are very clear, and you can't help but think that just maybe she's alluding to the chaos that we've seen around Brexit. The royal family have done their bit to smooth the transition with overseas tours and state visits, showing friendship and keeping a poker face on the politics and how they feel about us leaving the EU.
Very much like her father during the Second World War. This guidance from the head of state that we should try and find a middle road as a nation is exactly what fits with the Christmas message and maybe helps us in families too to get along.
On Friday, the Queen travelled to Sandringham. Just like last year, she'll be joined by the rest of the family for Christmas Day, including the Cambridges and the Sussexes, who've also reportedly had their differences.
What we certainly will see is all four of them going to church on Christmas Day. And of course, this does come amid suggestions that they haven't been getting on, amid rumours of rifts over the last few weeks, last few months. But certainly if there have been any of those behind closed doors, we won't see any sign of that on Christmas Day. I expect we're going to see a family united, enjoying Christmas together.
We don't know what the Queen personally thinks about Brexit, whether it's on politics or family matters. The monarch wants us all to put our differences to one side, at least for Christmas. Rhiannon Mills, Sky News.
Well, Theresa May has also been pleading for unity today, writing in the Daily Express. She appeals for Britons to come together, dispense with the titles Leave and Remain, and instead find some common ground on what can be achieved together. So, is it too much to ask? Let's find out. Sonia Sodha, the Observer's chief leader writer and former senior policy advisor to Ed Miliband, joins us, as does Asa Bennett, the Telegraph's Brexit commissioning editor. Good afternoon to you both. Asa Bennett, if I could start with you, perhaps. What hope for unity?
Well, obviously, Her Majesty the Queen is embodying her role as a voice of calm, counsel and stability by trying to suggest that it's time everyone does indeed pull together. And on that message, Downing Street will most surely be delighted by this, to have that as the general mood music over Christmas. Because the last few weeks in Parliament this month have seen all sorts of really crotchety, irascible rows over things like whether Jeremy Corbyn called Theresa May a stupid woman or referred to stupid people, and obviously the no confidence vote, Jacob Rees-Mogg trying to get rid of the Prime Minister. And it's interesting then, because obviously when you have the chair of the ERG able to sit down with Theresa May, you know, human and human, you're dining, breaking bread in a sense, just a week after he was trying to get rid of her, you know, maybe there is a spirit of conciliation finally in Westminster, but we have to see in the new year.
Let's turn to you, Sonia Sodha. I must say I feel rather underdressed here. You've both embraced the spirit of Christmas a day early. It has to be said, I feel decidedly, like I say, underdressed. I think I need to adorn some, tinsel? Something, put a hat on?
Yeah.
Like the Angel of the North. Sonia Sodha, so what hope, I'll put the same question to you. What hope for unity?
Well, I'd like to be as optimistic as Asa. I think the Queen's message is incredibly pertinent this year, given what we've seen in recent weeks and months over Brexit, particularly, I think, the wrangling that we've seen in Westminster. Some may hope that we see MPs come back after the festive season, full of mulled wine, mince pies, turkey, with a renewed sense of sort of reaching across the division, shall we say. But I think we're going to see MPs come back and it's going to be as rancorous, as divisive as before. And that's because Brexit is so high stakes. There is so much at risk here. People from both sides see that I think the chances of people being able to come to some sort of consensus are actually pretty low.
Of course, the Queen's never going to talk about Brexit, is she, Sonia Sodha? No. But could we infer this is what she's on about?
Yeah, I think there's a good chance. I think probably, who knows? It's a Queen. She keeps her political views very close to her own chest. But I'm sure the Queen, like many other members of the public, will have watched some of the scenes unfold in Westminster over the last 2-3 weeks, seen MPs shouting across the aisles at each other, and really kind of feel this doesn't represent us as a country. So I think there's a very good chance that Brexit is at the root of what she's talking about here. I think the reason for optimism, though, is that while our politics has been incredibly rancorous and we've seen a real sort of breakdown in some of the political discourse over recent months, I'm not so sure that reflects all the conversations that are going on up and down the country, around the Christmas dinner table. I think that it's easy to sort of over-exaggerate the loss of civility in conversation, particularly in private conversations with your friends and loved ones. And so I don't think we need to be too pessimistic about the toxicity of the political debate away from Westminster.
Asa Bennett, Theresa May talking, urging people to dispense with the titles Leave and Remain, find some common ground. It's not going to happen, is it?
Well, I mean, I do know that when you talk to senior Remain campaigners, they acknowledge that, if/when Brexit does happen, it will be much harder for them to make their case to sort of get rid of Brexit, to stay close to the EU, because at that point, it will have been done. The predictions about all the disruption, they'll start to dwindle in that sense. So I think she is trying to tap into that sense of, one day in a few years' time, all this drama about common external tariffs, the backstop, which many of us, understandably, are sort of sick to the back teeth of, they will just be side notes in a sense. And the thing is, I understand why there's such high tempo and rhetoric on Brexit now, because of course, this is after a referendum in which there was a binary result, either remain or leave. And at the same time, that has to be translated into a process in which both sides on, the more purist ends of the spectrum believe that only their doctrine is going to make the country better, and that the opposite side want to impoverish the country and leave them worse off. So, of course, they are fighting for this because they care very much indeed. And this is where clearly that Theresa May is trying to appeal to that, most British of spirit, just making things that work in a sense, because how many of us really want to obsess about the backstop? Not many, as Jacob Rees-Mogg and others might like people to believe.
And it's time that she did have a little lull over Christmas. I mean, what was it? Yesterday she was pictured in Waitrose, having a selfie, having some Theresa May time. Is that fair enough? We should give her a break. It is Christmas.
Absolutely. Even the Prime Minister does that.
One of the things...
Sorry, let's start. Sonia Sodha, go on. You carry on.
Sorry, Asa. Absolutely. Even the Prime Minister deserves Christmas off, but I think she's going to come back after the Christmas break to, as I was saying, a lot of division. And I think Asa's right that if Brexit were to happen, we probably would drop some of these labels. But the problem coming back from the Christmas break is that we seem to be in utter gridlock. There isn't a majority in Parliament in favour of anything. So I think the chances of another referendum, a referendum on the terms of the withdrawal agreement that the Prime Minister has negotiated, is probably looking more likely than it ever has in the last few weeks and months. So if we see another referendum, then I think we could be seeing this debate between two sides for a while longer yet. But in many ways, I think this is such an important debate. There's so much at stake. The referendum in 2016, it was a very simple leave or remain question. There weren't any concrete terms put to people. And I think now that Parliament is in gridlock, the case for a referendum has never been stronger, because if MPs can't get behind, a majority of MPs can't get behind one option, what option is there really apart from to put it to the public again in a referendum?
Asa Bennett, we've got to get through the vote, obviously. So how close are we to another referendum, do you feel?
Well, it does seem like Downing Street are quietly confident that they can actually win this. And obviously, I mean, it goes without saying that I would personally disagree with Sonia, not least because, for one thing, if we have Parliament saying that it has to take back control and it's time for MPs to take back control and to really decide these things, it would be rather curious for them suddenly to say, you know, we can't decide, actually. Let's go back again. We'd go on this endless whirly-gig merry-go-round of checking with the public, coming back in, and people not really being able to decide. Yet the political class then need to realise, of course, you know, as Brexiteers used to argue back in the early days, that given it is a sort of 52-48 result, you know, it makes sense in some ways that this is not a 100% purist clean break in the sense of a Brexit, that it is that very British sense of pragmatism and compromise. Of course, I mean, I do realise that, you know, Sonia is on something, that Brexiteers could well bounce back into Parliament in next month with their New Year's resolution being to take down the deal, feeling that WTO could happen. But of course, they'll begin having lots of conversations with their constituents over the coming days. And Downing Street hopes that they're going to get one clear message: let her get on with it.
So, Asa Bennett, what hope then as a New Year's resolution for some kind of harmony breaking out?
Well, I mean, it's certainly clear that Brexiteers feel they are being offered thin gruel rather than the full fat turkey with the trimmings of free trade deals and all the cranberry sauce by way of border control they want. They're having to be kept waiting, in a sense. But, you know, it's just, I think the key metaphor here is a process. It's going to take time. You know, they may well fall out, just like we all might over a board game of Monopoly or what have you. But, you know, we're still going to be having to play together at a table. We're still going to be having to, you know, be seeing each other at future Christmases for many years to come. So people have to get on.
Yeah. Sonia Sodha, very quickly to you too. Some New Year harmony, perhaps?
I don't think so. I think it's going to all be a bit of a game of charades when MPs get back from the break. I think the divisions that we've seen in Westminster, and this is so high stakes, have been so set that I really don't, and I think people feel like there's so much to play for. I really don't think we're going to see MPs coming back looking for a compromise. I don't see a way through this gridlock. I think, you know, Downing Street is very much talking up going into the Christmas period the chances of getting Theresa May's deal through, because that's very much the outcome that they want. But we've seen her do that before. We've seen the Prime Minister say, you know, this is going to pass, I can win support for this, and it just hasn't come through. So I am sceptical that we're going to see MPs come back seriously unified. I think this is such a high stakes debate. There's so much to play for. There are MPs in Parliament who rightly want May's deal to go to the people, for it to get a mandate from the people. So I don't think her deal will pass with the ease with which Downing Street seem to be implying.
We'll obviously come back to you both in a few weeks and see what happens. But for now, thank you, and thank you for joining in the festivities here on Sky News. Sonia Sodha and Asa Bennett there. Well.